Here we are, 3 months since the party left the hold of Summerhost, and 3 months since the Blighted Scourge was nothing more than a nightmarish part of Elarant's histories. How things have changed. From Summerhost the party travelled northwards to the hold of Westcrost, meeting a new friend along the way, but their short stay turned into something much larger, as once again they found themselves at the centre of another incident. The hold had been plagued by a number of mysterious disappearances that the party were able to trace back to the Lord himself during their stay. And, like all things, the encounter was anything but simple. Ranagash found himself taken by a wolf of the Blight, a new creation for a new infection, and the party was split. Eventually, they had come together in the Lord's basement, finding themselves face to face with Eidolon's ghost, the half-elf Gairdra. He stayed only to mock Eidolon, disappearing and leaving the party to his creation. In the end, only 3 remained. The Lord and his servant were cut down, and the wolf knocked Markasar unconscious. In his attempts to aid him, Wulfric caused Markasar's death, and delivered his body to the local church, to be returned to the earth and giving his prayers to the divines, in the hopes of finding the strength to continue. He was blessed by the divine Liara and left with the others, guiding their new friend, the merchant Asimir, alongside another, Roderick Armstrong, to the village of Kinreen. The journey saw Ranagash's visions getting worse, as he seemed tethered to Gairdra, and despite causing him pain, the insight into Gairdra's mind prepared them for what was to come, as their friend, Asimir, was not all he seemed. He was an unwilling agent of the half-elf, and was leading the party into an ambush, leaving them to die to a pack of blighted wolves not too far from the borders of Kinreen. Able to defeat the wolves and on the hunt for Asimir, the party entered into Kinreen, meeting the townsfolk and spending the evening at the caravan site, where their companion, Roderick, left to rejoin his own company, the Unfortunate Sons, as an interesting job had apparently come up which required his assistance. It was as night fell that Wulfric and Eidolon got to meet Ranagash's mother, who earlier that day had been injured by Gairdra and was being tended to by the local stable hand. Unable to do much else, they spent the night in his childhood home to watch over her, and learnt of the dangers on the northern roads, and of the decree of the Orcish chieftain, which prevented the people of Kinreen from travelling into the forest of Mire. And it was as night fell that Eidolon went missing, and it was the morning after when Markasar showed up at the door. He had been resurrected by the Priestess of Death in Westcross, and had made his way to Kinreen to rejoin the party, as the 3 began their investigations into Eidolon's disappearance. Meanwhile, however, Eidolon was already rescuing himself, having been taken by the Unfortunate Sons, in their attempt to turn a quick profit from a rumour they had heard from passing travellers. He left nothing behind, as eventually they reconvened on the road, the party having gone in the wrong direction and discovering the manes of some Orcish hunters, and the tracks of a huge beast prowling the forest. It wasn't long before they found out what the beast was, as Gairdra once more came to Kinreen, activating the infection in Ranagash's mother and opening the doors for creatures of the Blighted Scourge to attack the village. It was a massacre, one which Ranagash missed as he stood watching Markasar amputate the infection from his mother. But in the aftermath, and as the party made their way to Thornsgard, 2 letters were sent, one warning those who were left to leave, and the other sending the execution team to control the spread of the infection left behind. The party were chasing Gairdra, and it would seem that the distant town of Thornsgard had not been saved from his touch. Everyone was gone, with only a few left. Wulfric had seen the devastation in Kinreen and his friends influenced by the Blighted Scourge, but it was a relief when he saw the light of Sophia's shop were still on. However, Markasar was still travelling with the party, his green hand the bargaining chip to make him act on Gairdра's behalf. In the night, Sophia was taken, as Gairdra commanded, and the party blindly charged into the mountains, following her scent to a large prison camp filled with Orcish hunters and travellers from the northern road. They split up, with Ranagash and Wulfric heading in to find Sophia, and instead finding someone else. Wulfric's friend and mentor, William Esser, who was finally able to give Wulfric the news of the commander's death, as well as an insight into the workings of the camp. Eidolon and Markasar had remained outside, with Gairdra summoning his pawn to witness another death and issue another command. This time, Eidolon had followed, and finally understood that Markasar was nothing more than a frightened child, as the 2 of them took the time to bury the young woman. When the party finally got back together and entered into the inner sanctum of the prison, they came face to face with Gairdra and his dragon, a beast which the people on the wall called a Northul, as they tried to bargain for Sophia's safety. Combat ensued, after Sophia was injured and Eidolon had went to Gairdra on his knees. They managed to push him back, sending him back to Ilvania, but not without sacrifice. In their moments of rest, Eidolon tended to Sophia, and Wulfric buried Wilhelm. But there was some hope. They were able to find Gairdра's plans, where he would go next. To burn Mire to the ground, and to leave Ranagash with nowhere else to go. It left them with nowhere else to go. Yet before they made their journey into the forest, they returned Sophia to Thornsgard, and Markasar, driven by his guilt, finally confessed his sins to the party and promised to change his ways. The welcome they received entering into Mire was not what they expected, as it seemed the elders of the encampment had foreseen Eidolon as the harbinger, the one who will bring destruction to the forest, and upon their meeting refused to listen to Ranagash and to the chieftain, Bartak. It was then that Bartak demanded the party take the right to prove that, under the eyes of the ancestors, they could be trusted. Reluctantly, the elders accepted, and Bartak was sent to witness as the party made their way through each of the trials, giving themselves to the Sidhe and proving themselves against the giant Maktor. This was not enough for the elders, as when they returned with the gifts from the past, they refused to listen, sending them away and only heeding their warnings should they see once more into Ranagash's mind. That evening showed the extent of his mind, as Eidolon took him once more and trained his visions. Though this time, Wolseley started to bleed, the projection was not dispelled. Markasar's father, summoned from a memory 20 years past, was brought into the forest of Mire, and there he remained, aiding in the battle that would come the following morning. When the fate of Mire was decided, only 2 of the elders fought alongside the party and the Orcish hunters. Creatures of the Blighted Scourge and several Northuil attacked the encampment, leaving many dead and even more injured. Though Wulfric was brought face to face with another friend, as Deirdre had possessed the form of Hrafn, his childhood friend, in an attempt to lead the charge from the safety of Ylvania. When the fires had died, the forest fell silent, as Wulfric said goodbye to the spirit of a friend, and Markasar said goodbye to his father. But Ranagash found himself saying goodbye more than once, as he was told that he would not be able to return home for a long time. He spoke with his father and learned of the power of his mother's magic. He spoke to Bartak and said his final goodbyes. And then, searching for a girl, he climbed the heights of Mire's mighty trees and said his farewells to Grey, after refusing her assistance and telling her to remain within Mire. Together, not willing to remain, the party ventured the trails and travelled back to Kinreen, finding in a state of chaos, as the first defence had arrived to clear the town of the Blight. Only 2 remained, and it was from them that Ranagash had learned that his mother was taken, but it was from Eidolon that he had learned by who and for what purpose. As the captain of the first defence, a half-orc named Nolrir had taken her back to the wall, likely to place her under investigation as a result of her unique strand of the infection. This gave the party only one option, sending them on the long walk eastward to the village of Aramba and eventually onto the wall for Ranagash's mother, and to bring an end to the machinations of Deirdre.